Hello.
All right, here we are.
Moving us like that.
Yeah, I might need to adjust my camera. I'm getting a lot of toys, but I've only got like this much of me. That's all right.
That's right. It makes you look thinner or shorter.
Yeah, more
And you are
Dorvish.
on that. You are standing on that step stool in front of your computer now.
Yeah,
What's going on?
not much. Just same old stuff. And we launched the book, and now I'm looking at writing other stuff. So, life of an author. How about you?
Oh, I got the do back. Back to the blonde. It's kind of more orange, but I did leave it on long enough. So oh well. But I much prefer it to the other. I don't know why. I just do.
Yeah, I thought about it and then I figured I'm way too lazy to keep that up.
Yeah, I know. It's just like once every 4 to 6 weeks. It's like, oh my god, 15 minutes of my life. I understand.
Well, that's how often I shave my head, so that's about how it works.
Yeah. All right. Hi, Chris. Hi, Diana. Hi, Audrey. Hi, Malcolm. Hi, Janine. Hi, Kathleen. How are you
Yep.
guys doing today?
Everyone's filtering in.
Ooh.
Audrey, yeah, it's not that long of a book, but if you've made it through a third, I guess, yeah, it just came out yesterday. That's pretty good.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Heather. Thanks to all you guys for coming back every week and saying hello and watching our shenanigans. It's fun. I just be aware I did not sleep much last night, so I'm a little bit punch drunk and just plain out of it. And we were just having a little talk about stuff before this. It's like caffeine. I don't. It's like drink coffee. It's just like why that'll literally put me right back to sleep. I mean, which great. I could use some damn sleep, so maybe I'll have some coffee, but doing it right before a show, I'd be like partway in and be like,
Yeah, so I have to take my anxiety meds at night, but I think one week, the second week, I tried doing that before the show, and then I was kind of like nodding off during it. So, yeah, I got to be careful about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. See, same, Chris. For me it was 3:30, I think, and then just ugh. Anyway, I'm not sure why you guys would be hearing an echo because we both have headphones on. We're both talking through the mic. You don't have any speakers on, right?
You know,
Am I?
unless people are watching in multiple windows or they've got something on. Trying to think what happens on their end that could be doing that.
Yeah, because we also have, let's see, on the mic settings, let's go to audio. Echo cancellation is set to on. Is yours set to on also?
It's still default, whatever the way we set it up before.
So go to uh, cam mic and then click on audio and see if it says echo cancellation. It should, but just take a quick peek.
Yep.
Yeah. And nobody else is hearing an echo. So me thinks it's you. Sorry, Kathleen.
Yeah, I mean, I know sometimes if you've got two windows open and you, for some reason, they're playing, and you'll get that effect. Or there's got to be other things, but I'm not thinking straight enough to try and troubleshoot that at the moment.
Exactly. We didn't wake up to do this show to do tech support. But check it. We were having an echo problem before, which is why we decided to go with the headphones and the different microphones. We're not using the cam mics anymore. We're actually using actual microphones. So, like, I'm gonna unplug my headset for a second. Actual microphone. So it's no longer using the webcam mic and all that crap because that definitely causes echo because that picks up my speakers, which blow out into the room, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know why you're getting an echo. It's weird.
And I don't know what a FAF is, but what you do in your own home is your own business.
Yeah. Hi, Lisa. All righty then. So, yeah. It's been a week.
Yep. It was a good show last week. A lot of people checked that out, and I think that was one of our better of the two interviews we've done. not counting the one that just talking with you.
Right.
But that was fun. Rick was a good guest.
Yeah,
And
I agree. It
so
was
if you
fun.
haven't listened to that one, you might go check that out. We covered a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, that was fun.
So
Okay, so let's see. I guess since let's see, we usually do this at 11:05, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump on in and jump to the next section, which I believe we call headlines. I'll let you announce the big news of the week. Go ahead.
no, I can't say that one. I was going to tell you what I told you before, but I'll get in trouble. Just, but yeah, let's go with the non-dog related one. The Anthology Quick Draw released. We had almost 200 pre-orders. It's doing pretty well right now. So charity will be getting some money. True Colors United. So if you haven't picked it up, it's a fun book. It's on Kindle Unlimited. So check it out.
That's awesome. Okay, for me, I have uploaded the latest. I have uploaded the final Searing Destiny EPUB so that it's ready to publish, and I have verified everything looks okay on it. So that means come launch day, that thing is ready to launch, which should be next, or I don't know, not 2 weeks? Or is it next week? No, it's 2 weeks, I guess. Yeah, and then I'm also looking at crate options, and I think I know what I'm going to do at this point. I do need to get the paperbacks set, and for the first, first versions, I got to order them and all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of a problem because I actually heard from multiple authors that KDP is saying, "Oh, yeah, author copies of books right now are being held up or delayed and so on because of the pandemic and so short
Yeah.
staffed to do stuff."
I just read that message on the KDP dashboard a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, so it looks like that could actually delay things greatly on the whole crate concept, which kind of sucks. But what are you gonna do? We're also going to be well, that's going to be another news. So I'll talk about that in other news. That's later on in the show. So we'll get to that. So, yeah, anything else going on?
No, I mean, you're starting to look through book 7 for Vetus.
Yep, that's right.
So
Tokyo.
on my end.
Yep, Tokyo Kaiju. And then you and I are going to be discussing what was going to happen for the final book.
Yes.
But we've also come up with some interesting ideas for a possible Bert spinoff, and we keep on, talking about that. So that could happen. It could be fun.
Yep. There's a lot of stuff we can do when there's time and motivation.
Yep. Ben and I had a long discussion about, where we were going to. We had already gotten through part or halfway through the New York final book, and it was going pretty well and everything else. But we were like, we really need to tie things together. So we spoke for, I don't know, a couple hours and came up with a bunch of really cool, fun ideas that wrap everything up, but also just kind of epic. So it's pretty sweet. Anyway, so I know Ben's working on that. I've got some chapters from him also to look at and so on. And I know that Eric is working his butt off to try to finish the final rewrite of book 3 of Seattle. So I'm basically doing tons of editing and not a lot of writing at this point, but that's okay because honestly, I kind of needed a bit of a mental break anyway from writing. So, but I am getting super jazzed about the Platoon F upcoming book. So yeah, it'll be fun. I was supposed to talk to Chris about that on Monday, and we just never had the opportunity. So we're gonna try again this coming week and see what happens. But right now, my focus is editing. So, and then we'll move on from there. All right. Anything else on news, or should we move on?
I think we can move on.
Well, then I guess we'll have to just tell the damn joke of the day. All right, so this is actually two jokes. I'll tell two. One of them is a dad joke, and it's just terrible, just terrible. That is, uh, I don't know. A person walks into a library and just says, "Hey, I'm looking for an author who has written a lot of stuff on dinosaur fiction. You know anybody?" And the librarian goes, I would say Triceratops."
Oh no.
What? It was pretty bad, wasn't it? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No comments there. Let's wait and see when it catches up if there's any groans.
There needs to be a wah, 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 you know. All right. Grown. Hi,
Yeah.
Malcolm. All right. So let's see. This guy, he's having this problem with his arm and stuff. He's like, what the heck's going on? So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like checks him out and everything else, and just says, you play tennis? And he's like, yeah. He says, I think he got tennis elbow. And he's just like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. So, but I'll tell you what. He says, they've got this new Metavac 3000. I don't know. I just made this shit up. It's like this. So if you just take a whiz in a cup, we'll pour it into the Metavac 3000, and it'll confirm, if I'm right or not. The guy's like, for real? He goes, yeah, it's pretty new, but it's actually been pretty accurate. He's like, all right, what the hell? I'll give it a shot. So the guy takes a whiz in the cup and brings it back, and the dude pours it into the thing. Medevac 3000 goes, and all that kind of crap, right? And then it goes, ding, and puts out the thing, and the guy rips it up, and he goes, yep, sure enough, says you got tennis elbow. And these guys just like, that's kind of weird, man. He says, come on. He says, you were just probably messing with that thing or whatever. And he's just like, well, he says, you don't believe it. He says, you bring back another urine sample at some point and we'll check it out again. And he's like, all right. So, anyway, guy goes home. He's like, has an appointment to come back to have his elbow checked out in a week anyway. So he goes home and he gets this idea as he's getting closer to the day. He says, you know what? I think I'm going to mess with this computer and see what it really can do. So he takes a whiz in it. Then he has his wife take a whiz in it. Then he has his daughter take a whiz in it. Then he has his dog take a whiz in it. And then finally he just says, screw it, and he cranks one off in it and everything else, right? And then he brings it back and it's in a paper bag. And doctor is just like, oh, did you bring back Sam? He goes, yeah, I did. He says, but let me put it in. And and the guy's just like, he's like, because I want to see if it's for real or not. And the doctor's like, all right, just pour it into that thing right there. So the guy goes over and like dumps it in there real quick, and takes it back, throws it in the bag so the doctor can't see. So this time it takes a little longer. It's like 5 minutes, it's like that and all that kind of stuff. The doctor's like, man, this is taking longer than I'm used to seeing. But okay, so finally goes bing, puts out the little printout. The doctor says, huh. He's like, what? He says, well, it says your dog's got fleas, your wife's got herpes, your daughter's pregnant, and if you quit jerking off, you get rid of that tennis elbow.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's an old one. I've heard that one.
There are very few that we haven't heard, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, let's talk anthologies. That's what we're into today. So let's get into it.
Yeah. Are we going to do a snippet?
We'll wait. We'll do a snippet halfway through the anthology talk. So I'll go ahead and basically interview you because you just had to go through an anthology creation, which sure was just so fun. I haven't actually done one where I work with other authors as far as when I'm the lead having to do it, but I've seen it enough times and I've worked with a number of authors who were like, help, I don't know what to do here. So I kind of felt like I've been involved enough to realize this is not something I would ever choose to do. But there's also good that can come with it. The first thing I have to ask you is, where do you have the balls to contact these people that, Pierce Anthony and how do you just do that? I mean, I'd be going, all right, I'm going to contact someone and they'd be like, maybe not. How do you even get to do it?
I thought of names. I looked on Twitter to see who accepted direct messages, and then I looked for emails, and that was pretty much it. I mean, I tailored the emails as much as I could, but it's like, man, what they say is no. I mean, they're not going to reach through the screen and beat me. I mean,
fair enough.
I just got a rejection just yesterday from R.A. Salvatore, so they're still coming in.
Rejections are still coming in. Yeah. Well, you know what?
Yeah, way less stress than dating. I mean, but then again, I did internet dating, so I got shot down like a million times. So I was probably already ready for this.
Yeah, but you see, I did no dating. I mean, Laura and I got together when we were 13, so you know what I mean. The only rejection I'm used to is boy, I really want pizza. No, all right, you know.
So less pressure there. I've already been through that, but I also saw the good parts of it because in China and Thailand before I got married, I got laid all the time going through the internet.
Yeah, but that cost lots of money, didn't it? But
no, that doesn't usually use the internet. I can just go downtown.
Girls carry balls.
Yeah. So,
but they have to pretend to like it if you're paying them.
Nice. Anyhow, all right, move along from that. All right, so when you were trying to like put this together, just so people can kind of understand and everything else, I mean, what was your initial vision as far as, okay, I've never done this before. So did you go study what other people did? Did you just kind of go, I guess it's just a bunch of authors I throw in a book? What was your plan?
Yeah, more of the second one. I mean, we'd gone through Martha Carr's anthology and done 2 stories together for that over the last couple of years. I've been in 1 or 2 others and submitted to a bunch of them. So I just kind of looked at what they'd done and did a little Googling. But past that, I was kind of just like, well, let me just see if anyone's interested first. So I sent out a couple emails, and when a couple big names came in, I'm like, well, shit, I guess I probably have to do this.
Well, there you go. And what about like the cover? What was the idea for that?
Yeah, that one, it was hard to think of, and so was the title. Like, nobody really could think of anything, so I just kind of went with like a face-off of all the different genres. So we have a pie fight between a barbarian, a robot, and an alien. So just kind of like an old West showdown. I just pulled it out of my ass and handed it over to Luther Davis, who does the Shingles covers. And he took it from there and just a couple tweaks here and there. And I think it ended up pretty good.
Yeah.
That's my first time working with by myself with a cover designer. So that was interesting.
There you go. Yeah. And I thought it turned out really well. It conveys comedy without making it feel like a kid's book, which is a very difficult thing to do. Especially because it's illustrated. So, I mean, that is a super difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I was trying to think how we would do it with models and everything else, and anything else just seemed like it would either be too juvenile or too hokey, or I mean, it was a lot harder for me to think of the idea than for him to pull it off. So, cover artists are worth their money.
Yeah, it's true, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, for example, right now I'm having Rick Lum, who was the guy who did the original Ononikin artwork. I'm having him redo all of the characters for Ononikin, and he asked me the other day, can you send me descriptions of these characters and what you're looking for? And that, to me, is the hardest part. It's like, I'm sure for him, he's just like drawing stuff. Because I've worked with him for years because he used to do game art for us back in the day, a long time ago. I've been working with him since 2000 or something like that. And so he's done a lot of game art for multiple games that I've coded. And so I've seen him. He just sits there and goes, oh, you want something like a whiz fiddle, so we'll be on the screen. And he'll just like, what about this? And I'll just be like, God damn, he just does it like that. But he still has to have the idea of, what to do and such. And so I had to sit down and write those out. And I'll tell you, if you have to ever do that, where you sit down and it's not just describe the character, but describe the scene, describe what you want, how they're supposed to be looking, and all that kind of stuff. And you have to think in terms of comedy and everything that goes with it, and write it out. It's actually quite daunting.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot goes into it. I mean, even when we've just tried to come up with the PPD ones, like it's like, all right, well, he's got to hold something this time. Is he going to face this way? I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, the minimal input that comes from us that then Audrey has to take and turn into something cool looking.
Right. And she's super limited too, because I mean, you're working with the same model, right? And that model only has so many pictures where they're not going, like that, because that's the majority of what people want when they go to deposit photos, is not brooding angst and like anger or, going to shoot something. No, what they're looking for are product photos like, I use Crest toothpaste. I mean, that's what they're looking for. So you've got 99 of those and like 5 of the brooding angst ones. So then she has to take them and put them in a different angle, but it's still the same.
Yeah. Especially if you're looking for someone that's not like a white dude, because the pictures all seem to look like I'm involved, like I'm important. I'm part of the group. It's not weird that I'm here. So they're all very kind of tokenish pictures.
Yeah. Well, I agree. But anyway, so yeah, Audrey has an interesting question for you. Here we go. How did you organize the book? Did you have a plan, or did it just fall together?
When you say organized, you mean like which stories went where, or what specifically?
I would argue the question, yeah. Since it's an organization, let's go with that.
Go with
the already answered the question of how did you think to put this together? So let's go with that.
Yeah, I put the dirtiest stories at the back and put a warning label on them, so you saw that.
There's only like 2 or 3 dirty stories.
There was like 5 or 6, I think, by the time it was all done.
Did I miss some? I read the whole thing yesterday. I don't remember that, but okay.
Yeah, see, because there was Rick's, there was, or if it wasn't dirty, if it was like really violent or something. Yeah, there's from Lorraine. My brother got in with one. Bevan, Hunter Blaine, Lorraine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Really? And that was after. Okay. All right. That's cool. I didn't think I didn't see that many. But anyway, how did you organize?
Yeah. So yeah, your standards of dirty are different, obviously. I mean, the last story is Rick's. He caps off the book with "Do Vampires Shit," which, I mean, that would have not always been that bad, but since there already was that section, I mean, there was some borderline calls. But yeah, for the rest of it, I tried to kind of spread out the big names and mix in some of the lesser known authors. Tried to keep mini themes going through it. If I had a story about it, something like I tried to segue tonally anyway, so it didn't jump from like horror comedy to, a pony story or cat story or something. So it was mostly just kind of looking at it, and if it felt right, I just kind of went with it. So yeah, I went through it and changed it pretty much up until the end, but I think it's okay the way it went. I don't know. It depends on what you guys think. Hopefully it was paced well enough to where you kept reading. That was the intent anyway.
I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. I mean, it didn't feel like it was jolting at any point. It felt like it was a smooth transition across the board for me. So, and I liked how it was. I'm not a poem person, but those were mostly more limericky poems and stuff. Yeah. And I liked how those kind of broke up the longer stories and stuff like that. I thought that was good.
Right.
Yeah. So now you have participated in, I think this is a great question, and I think I know the answer.
Am I going to do another anthology next year? Yeah. Let's start the Kickstarter on that one to pay for my health, my mental health bills before we get into it. I'll have to be the charity on that one.
We're gonna go with no on that.
Unless something very drastically changes to where there's something that can motivate me to do it, then yeah, I don't see it really happening.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
a lot of work doing stuff like that.
yeah, I mean, it's great and it's selling enough to make donations to charity and everything else, and that's wonderful. But it'll be even more wonderful when I just send someone else's story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's tough. So I was going to ask. Okay, so you've participated in anthologies, a couple, and not including this one, but I mean, just where you have submitted. What do you see as the biggest difference? Obviously, I know the obvious answer, but what do you see as the biggest difference between something like that and something like this?
Well, this one, I think it was attractive to the big names and a lot of them because I did flash fiction and I kept them really short. It's a lot easier to ask someone to spend like 15 minutes writing something than to spend a week doing it. And for some people, actually, it turned out that it's harder for them to do something short. Brandon Sanderson's agent, who's a major dick, said Brandon doesn't write short things, and stuff like that. And, so that was one thing. But other than that,
you mean Sanderson?
Yeah. What did I say?
Anderson.
Yeah. I thought I said Sanderson, but
you did.
Yeah.
I'm like slow, so
yeah. But then that must have been my response. Must have been jarring enough that someone else came back and said, "Oh no, he's just very busy and all this." Because I went on Twitter and said, "Hey, Brandon, your agent's a dick," and so yeah. He was the only one that was really bad. And
you really said that?
Yeah.
Hero.
And then after someone else emailed me back and was nice, I went back and deleted it. So, But,
hey, Brandon, your agent's a dick.
I was going to say, as far as being a Mormon and everything, maybe, yeah, you picked the wrong dude.
Oh, jeez. Wow. That's funny.
Yeah, I went to well over 100 people, and most people, I mean, they didn't answer. They say I'm just busy or whatever excuse or reason they had, and it was all cool. But to say he doesn't do this kind of thing, and even if he did, what you've sent me isn't enough for me to go on. He just he says no first, and then he shit on me for like half a page.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's when you should have just sent him.
Could have just wrote back, say, "Here's a dick pic," because you obviously don't have one.
Right. No, just find a picture of him, or whatever, and then just put a cock on top.
No, I went through. I was very passive aggressive against it. It was like all of these, and it was a fun email to write, just because he couldn't really get mad about any of it.
Right.
But yeah, don't mess with me if you're a stranger on the internet, because I will be passive aggressive to you. Let that be a warning. I'll call you out as a dick on Twitter.
You have to be a dick. Just say, "Gee, I'd love to help. I'm sorry I can't right now. I just don't have the time."
Yeah, I mean, that's all.
Is I'm not writing that fucking stupid thing. If that's what you're thinking, you don't say that. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Costs nothing to be kind, especially if you work for a Mormon.
That's what I originally did, but you just get pressured. I'm just kidding. Anyway, a quick question here from Audrey, which is not really related, but let's see. Do artists ever read the books? Well, I can answer that. My daughter, Audrey, read all of the Platoon F books because she also had edited them originally. But not normally. At least that's not my experience. I know that Rick doesn't read the Quest or the Ononican books, for example. So
yeah, I highly doubt it because they don't have time. I mean, the descriptions and everything else is what they're looking for. If you imagine if you're a good cover artist and your book solid, you don't have time to spend 5 hours reading a book. I mean, you could have half the cover done.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to read a book for something. Well, I mean, usually what happens is we have to say, here's what we want for the cover. and so on. And then, we're basing that off of what we know of the story, but the story is usually not done. So because you have to get the cover done months and months in advance if you're going to get it, connected to the book, because otherwise it's like, oh, I finished a book, I'm going to go grab a cover. And if you're trying to find somebody who is really good at what they do, they're going to have a backlog. So they're not just going to drop everything and do the stuff for you. So you kind of got to plan ahead. But if you mean like after, I've never heard of them doing that, but I'm sure some do. I don't know. We'll see. Malcolm asked if the author or the agent, did Sanderson ever hear about it? I think you already answered that. You said that.
Yeah, Brandon never responded, but I didn't really expect him to. But obviously somebody caught wind of it. But yeah, it wasn't him. I wasn't allowed to talk to him because, I just got his agent, because that's the email that I was able to get. But I had,
we're not worthy. Like, I'm sure he's a super nice guy. I don't know anything about him.
He seems all right. And the same thing, I didn't get an answer from Neil Gaiman's people, so I just asked him directly on Twitter, and he was very nice about it. And he's huge. So, I mean, you can be one of the biggest authors and still not be a dick. It's not that hard.
I mean, I don't care who you are. You don't need to be a dick. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's just like, we had talked about this a little bit last week with Rick in that, even if somebody's, coming after me or whatever, giving me a bad review and so on, I'm always trying to be nice to them. And I'm like, to a point, so do I. But the moment that a person crosses that line, fuck them. I don't care. It's just like, I'm coming back. I'm not just going to sit there and go, oh, fuck that. No, I'm hitting back. So,
yeah.
But anyway,
there's a certain, that's kind of how I am. I think it's a certain point. Once you make it personal, then, depends on my mood and other factors, but
yeah. All right. So, so one of the things that we kind of discussed amongst the PPD authors is to do an anthology, but not like this. It's really just taking the first book of each series, of each precinct rather, and putting them into a single, called First Books Anthology. And the idea is to, everybody watching this probably has read every one of the books anyway, but this is to get new people involved. Excuse me. So probably would use the cover like this, take away the dragon and stuff, obviously, but use the thing in the background here, because I don't want to have to go and try to get another cover made and everything else if I can utilize that. So, and that has all the characters on it anyway. So, but yeah, the idea would be to put the first book of each precinct in order that they were published. And then at the back of each one of those books, basically say, hey, you want to read the next book in this precinct? Go here, and all that kind of junk, and so on, and see if that will drum up, additional interest. It could even be, well, I read the first one and that really wasn't my cup of tea, but I'll read the second one. Oh, I really like this one. I'll read the third one. I'll read the fourth, that kind of thing, and maybe get some precinct movement that way. But that's the kind of, it is a box set, yes, but it's Malcolm asks, is that a box set more than an anthology? Well, an anthology is a collection of stories, so kind of the same thing. But a box set to me is more of the same precinct. So in other words, like if you do 3 books of Las Vegas, then that's a box set for Las Vegas. But an anthology is really different areas. Or different story, what I mean? Different characters, different settings, all that kind of stuff is more of an anthology to me. So, but anyway, that's kind of the plan to do that. And I had done this before a long time ago with comedy fantasy sci-fi bundle, which included Ononican stuff and, Platoon F, Queen Arthur, IIB, stuff like that. I had done this a long time ago. And actually, I was just telling Noah about this the other day. Actually, to this day, it's still the 6th highest grossing thing I've ever done. And it's like, it's still there. And that I stopped publishing that in 2017. So probably going to do that again because, it's a different world now than it was then, though. That's kind of another one of the issues. But yeah, so there's that.
Well, we could talk about why we're going this route is instead of having like a traditional one to where we all would do short stories or something. Because I know people ask about that.
Well, I mean, for me, is because I'm tired of editing. I don't want to do that anymore. It's soul sucking to edit that much, and yeah. So I just doing developmental editing is really hard, and it's like right now, I'm doing it with you, Ben, and Eric, all on 3 big books, and it's fucking tiring as hell. I mean, it is so exhausting to do editing. I get like 3 chapters in, and I'm just like, going like that. It's because I'm not reading the story. I'm editing the story. I'm development. So I have to be very, and I'm not talking about editing grammar and stuff like that. I'm talking about developmental editing. Like this paragraph is written in such a way, and I look at it and I go, I'm not sure. I don't understand this. And then I'll
Or in our books, it was, but I thought you cut off his testicles was an actual note from the last round that I got from you.
Exactly.
So,
Having to
continuity.
remember stuff. Yeah, continuity, having to remember all that stuff and everything else. Plus having to remember, wait a minute, didn't this back in book 4 or back to, book 2, whatever, what happened there and all that kind of stuff it's very, challenging to do that, to really, pay attention to that, especially when you're doing it for a lot of different, books at the same time. So then doing an anthology like that, I don't have any interest in going down that road. I mean, you just went through an anthology. You know what that's like. No.
Yeah,
just,
these are
no, I'm not doing that.
Short. I mean, to do one like Martha does, where she does it every year with these big stories and everything else, I mean, that would be painful. A different kind of pain that I went through, but still painful.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing it. So I'll just make it easy. No.
Plus, we have to decide who gets paid how long do they get the rights? I mean, it's John, so it'd be forever. But there's a lot of legal stuff, which is what I found out going through a lot more than I thought there would be.
Talk about that a little bit. What was it that you said as far as duration? Because everybody does this a little differently, and I'm assuming you piggybacked off of what Martha did. But what is it that you looked at and said, okay, here are the rights, here's what happens, here's how much you get paid, and so on?
Yeah, since it's a charity one, the paid thing didn't come up as much, but I said for first-time authors, if you want to be able to claim you're a professional author, I'll send you $1 through PayPal. Nobody's taken me up on it yet, but that's on the table for people that were published. But the legal stuff for charity is rough because you have to make sure they're recognized charity by the government and all this other stuff. Because it worked out good or okay the way it did, but I wanted to go a different direction. So it's just all these things you don't realize until someone says, "Oh yeah, you're about to go to jail. Maybe you want to do something different about that."
Yeah, and you're like, hold on, yeah, because I remember, with Martha Carr's first anthology that she was doing with us, she was saying, I'm not sure how to get, I don't know how to pay people, what to pay people, et cetera, and so on. And that's when, she and I were messaging, and I said, why don't you just tell everybody you're not paying them anything, and all the money is going to some type of a charity, because then that way you just have the rights for a certain amount of time and then release them. But basically say it's good for marketing. People are going to enjoy the stories. So they're going to find new authors that they like and so on. But it also can benefit something else out there. And she was like, oh, then I don't have to pay. I don't have to worry about how am I going to pay each for. I love it. And so that kind of thing, I think helps a lot because, yeah, you're right. I mean, trying to say, okay, each person gets, 10%, 5%. And then somebody says, well, wait, my story was 4,000 words and that story was only 500 words. Why are they getting 10%? And so am I, you have that kind of, or I have a big name, versus somebody else. And so, but if you just say it all goes to charity.
Yeah. Different set of problems, but in some cases easier problems. And I kind of piggybacked off that when I did this.
I would argue much easier. But yeah, I mean, as long as you pick like a legit, like you said, charity out there that's a registered NPO and so on, it's fine. And then I know that we are also on, I don't know if everybody knows this, but and if you don't want to mention it, that's fine. But there's also additional help going towards Rick's twat waffle thing, right?
Right. Yeah. To where I'm having trouble getting mine to go through GoFundMe because I was just going to do it ahead of time. But a few of us were going to donate per sold copy, a certain amount, like 50 cents per copy or something like that. And that's open to any author that's a part of it, or if you just have a lot of money and want to give it, go for it. But for Rick's Twats Helping Twats that came up last week, a few of us are going to chip in for that.
Yeah, so that's cool, and that basically goes on the number of sales that happened for this current anthology. So, and I know that there's 3 of us so far. I don't know if there are more than that, but there are 3 of us so far who are doing it, and it's like 50 cents per order up to a certain number of orders, and then there you go.
Yeah, I just want to do mine ahead of time. I was going to post it. I just was going to show that I was not just telling everyone to give their money away. I was going to show my receipt and post it. And once GoFundMe gets back to me and actually takes my fucking money, then I can do that. So
actually, it's a good idea. Maybe post a link to that GoFundMe in case in the group, so that way people can if they want to, and just point out that it's the Rick's it's Rick's thing and all that kind of junk. And then
right.
So if they want to help, that would be great. It's a good cause.
Yep. So we're giving to 2 good causes for Rick's, and then we're going to True Colors United, which is for homeless LGBTQ plus teens. I'm not getting into any politics, but that's the one I chose. So if you're on board with that, go for it. If you're not on board with it, just feel free to not say anything. Basically, because we're not going to be friends if if this gets into that kind of stuff. So.
My daughter's transgender, so don't go there. All right, so are you ready for the snippet of the week?
Sure.
Then let's rock it.
All right. So this week's snippet is, if you read through the book, I already have 3 things in there because I had 2 stories, and then I partnered up with Orlando for the coffee tea haiku. But I had a different story that I was going to run before I put in a hard skull one because I like writing those more, and I thought I wanted to give that more attention. So I'll read to you. Sorry,
hard skull.
Hard Skull the Barbarian.
Okay. Skull. I thought you were saying skull. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, like the chewing tobacco? No. So this is one that I self-rejected after I had it edited. So I didn't tell the editor that it wasn't going to go in. So it's called Why I Destroyed the Planet 30 Years From Now. All right. So I've probably got some explaining to do. You see, on June 12th, 2050, I blew up the Earth. People seemed to be against it at the time, but I thought I'd send this live message to the past to explain myself. Oh, it turns out time travel does exist, by the way, but it only works on stuff that's not alive. That reminds me, I'm the one that planted all those dinosaur bones to test your faith there, Christians. We learned how to make dinosaurs in 2025, but they just kind of crapped everywhere. People got tired of cleaning up after them and hunted the poor buggers to extinction. I just went to the landfill and sent a few thousand corpses back in time to see what would happen. I also sent back most of my trash for the last few months, but nobody seems to have found any of that. If you find a T-Rex skull with a banana peel sticking out of it, that's why. But I digress. Back to the whole wiping the planet out thing. I'll try to be brief as Earth shrapnel is bouncing off of, let's just say my new home. My first reason may seem minor to some, but it was important to me. I hate parasites. Mosquitoes, ticks, leeches, and vampires. I mean, come on. Anything sucking your blood isn't cool. Oh, that reminds me. You guys don't know this, but vampires are fucking real. We found that out around 8 years ago, and it's been weird ever since. I guess you won't believe me, but it's true. Well, I should say vampires were real. Unless they came up with some way to convert coffins to spaceships in a real damn hurry, they died with the planet. I mean, really died this time. My second reason was Becky. She knows what she did. My third reason was pride. Once I figured out how to destroy the planet, I couldn't resist building the machine to do it. Once I built the machine, my brother said I was too chicken to use it. Even worse, he dared me. Being a reasonable fellow, I countered by double daring him to do it. Then the sneaky bastard double dog dared me to do it, thus dooming you all. You get it, right? My fourth reason was altruism. I wanted to leave our dignity intact. Look, we were pretty much going extinct when I blew up the planet anyway. Climate change, overpopulation, greedy vampires, and the singularity were making us waste away like little bitches. Oh yeah, the singularity happened too, but the robots pulled out and ran off. I guess they weren't fond of what they saw in our heads. Really, I just pulled the plug when we had a little bit of class. We'd already started eating each other around 2032, so it was unlikely things were going to turn around. You all should thank me. Think of it as clearing the planet's browser history. If aliens ever showed up and looked through our stuff, I bet they'd laugh at us. My fifth reason is silly in retrospect. I figure I could sneak into heaven during the rush. When several billion of us showed up in the afterlife at the same time, you knew they weren't going to be ready for all of us. I planned to grab a kid and a puppy and walk in the front gates like I was already there. But I decided not to die at the last minute, so that plan's ruined. Reason 6. Seriously, Becky, she just sucks. I shouldn't say anything just in case we get back together sometime in the afterlife, but let's just say I hope that crabs don't get into heaven. Well, my shelter was just punctured and all the air is being sucked out, so I guess I should wrap this up. I hope there's still kids and puppies left to kidnap in heaven. Try to enjoy the next few decades. You might as well all go nuts since there's no reason to plan for the future or anything. I just realized that my sending this message might have something to do with why the planet went crazy around 30 years ago. Sorry about that. Sincerely, Dave. Oh, P.S. That's why they started killing everyone named Dave last year. Oh, man, heaven's going to be so awkward. The end.
All right, I'm sure I'm asking this for everyone. What the fuck did Becky do?
Yeah, she knows what she did.
Yeah, but we don't.
That's what I already said. I hope crabs don't get into heaven.
Yeah, exactly. So he got ass crabs, huh? Wow.
Wherever he got them from, they don't have those little combs in the future, I guess.
Exactly. Oh, gee whiz. So, do you have any intentions of participating, not running, but participating in anthologies going forward? Or are you kind of like, you've done a few now,
right?
Do you enjoy doing them, or do you find yourself kind of like me? I personally am like, meh. But I mean, this one, obviously was fun. I get to do something Ononican instead of urban fantasy. So that was kind of fun. But I mean, do you see yourself doing anything?
Yeah, I mean, I like to write little stuff, especially between big projects or whenever I get stuck. So, I mean, it kind of depends on the length. If they're asking for like 10,000 words and stuff like that, fewer opportunities there. Because, what do you write about? If you've got a series, do you want to write something like that? You want to write something original that nobody's going to be able to buy something else off of? I mean, trying to think about it not just as writing, but having to market yourself to sell books, because I mean that's part of the reason why we do these things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, depending on the anthology and all that stuff, I submit to some more and see what happens. If there's people out there that are putting together their own, I'm sorry, good luck, but yeah, let me know if you're interested. And so yeah. And we can talk to Ramey. He said he might actually be doing one based on his series, unless he's watching this, in which case he might change his mind really quick.
Right. Speaking of which, I guess we are going to be talking with Rami Vance next week about the Gone God world. He's in the anthology as well, so 3 times actually. So he's in the anthology, and so we'll be talking to him. And yeah, at some point, I'm going to ask Martha to join in as well. Probably won't be until the new year. We've got Nasri showing up on the 5th of December, and then Eric Knowles is going to be on the 19th because he'll be done with the Seattle rewrite stuff and everything else. And hopefully, we'll also be able to talk about what his plans are going forward, because I know he's got some stuff going on. And then I know that once Ben is finished with his final New York, we're going to want to bring him on as well. And then yeah, we'll be bringing more and more authors.
Yeah, so hopefully we can call in a few people that have been part of this anthology and see if they want to talk, because there's some people that you already knew and some of them that I've got to start to know. I mean, the big names probably aren't going to do it, but I'll ask them again. What are they going to say other than, my agent says I can't?
Right, exactly. I really need to get an agent.
Yeah.
An agent who's a dick.
Well, see, now it makes me wonder, like, oh, what if there is no agent? What if it's like one of those things where he's pretending to be his agent because he wants to be evil,
It's his alter ego. Oh, wow. Well, I'd love to, but unfortunately, I've got this deal and I've got to hand it over to my agent. Oh, I understand. So big deal. He said, well, I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, thanks. Like, he just sits there and goes, yeah, fuck you. I'm about to do this.
Yeah, right.
That'd be awesome. Oh, geez. All right. Well, then I would say, yeah, Bert as an agent. Exactly. I would say then we are going to say in other news. It's like porn music.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like I have this the thing that I use for, what is it called? Place It, I think. Placeit.com, I believe is what it is. And it allows you to create these little videos and all that kind of stuff. And then they give you can do your own music if you want, but then I have to bring it into a, like Final Cut Pro or something, and then come up with music, and it's just a pain in the ass. So I just go through and I list. I find they've got like 100 songs or something like that you can choose from, and they're just little snippets that they put in, and all of them are well, not all of them, but I would say a good half are very pornish in, in how they sound. And then I just thought, we're dysfunctional, so who gives a shit? Anyway, yeah. So in other news, was supposed to be talking about the PPD anthology. There we go. So we already talked about that, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Audible shit that's going on, because that's pretty fucked up. I mean,
Yeah.
I know most of you have already read about, what's going on with Audible and, their shady practices and all the crap that they've been doing. And you probably, if you read that entire article that I posted in the Dysfunctional Family group, that it costs a lot of money to make these books. And it's interesting because I would say it was about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago. I was selling like 500 units to 700 units a month of Audible books. Now, to put into perspective, and I think we've discussed this a little bit before, but to put it into perspective, if I sell a box set for $9.99 as an ebook, that's about $8 that, we make on that box set. Now, you're just like, wow, $8 is pretty good, for that. When you think about it, though, I mean, if we take, Platoon F, that's 10 books, so that's less than $1 a book, right? That you're making after, spending all those years writing 10 books, but still it's fine to do that. And then you turn around and you put that on Audible, same set. Now, Audible immediately, unless somebody buys it outright, which is very rare, right? That hardly ever happens. Somebody buys the book outright. Yeah. Okay. So you get 40% of that, which is nifty, right? But writing the book takes your time, obviously. And then, you have to pay for the cover art. You have to pay for all the stuff that goes into that and everything else. So by the time you're done, with a 10 book series, you've probably put in, almost $1,000, or I'm sorry, almost $10,000, right? or actually sometimes even more, up to 10,000 to 15,000. Depends on how long the story is, what you had to do, etc., etc. But just figure it's between 1,000 and 2,500 per book that we create is how much it costs us to put that book together, and so on. So at 10 books, you would think 25 grand, but with Platoon F being the example, the first 5 books were short stories, so it's not going to be that bad. So I would say probably around $10,000 to $15,000, right, to do that. Just the ebooks, right? And so you sell that for $9.99 as a bundle. Plus, you sold the individual books over the years, et cetera, et cetera. You've made back your money, and you're starting to profit. Yay, neat. And you say, okay, now I'm going to go into doing audiobooks. Well, there's 3 primary options that you can do there. The first one is to say, I'm going to find somebody to narrate it and do a royalty share with me, so I don't have to spend anything up front. That narrator is taking a risk on me. I'm taking a risk on them. We're both taking a risk that this is going to pay off. And for the next 7 years, 50% of the royalties go to them, 50% go to me. But that's 50% of 40% that Audible pays, right? Because you have to go exclusive to do it. So Audible pays you 40%. 50% of that goes over to the narrator. 50% of that goes to the author. Okay. So that's one option, and I'm lumping in Tantor companies that do this as well, because they will actually publish the book and then give you a percentage of that. So I'm lumping those kind of the same thing. I guess you could argue that's option 4, but I'm just going to throw it in there with doing a royalty split. So now you have as an author that the narrator, Tantor, whatever, they do the book, they give it back to you. You have to QA it, right? So you have to listen through it, everything else, and make sure that all is correct and everything else. They didn't say specific words wrong. They had the characters right, blah blah blah, and that takes a lot of time to do that. And then you have to send it back to the narrator, who then has to fix it, and so on. And depending on your agreement with the narrator, you might just have a narrator who literally just does that. They narrate and then they give you the files. Then you have to go to a producer, and then a producer or post-production person takes it and then makes sure that all the levels are the same. So you don't have one chapter at, this level and the next chapter at this level. You don't want to have that. So you want to have that balance going all the way through, and it's got to balance across all the books. They have to remove the noise. Otherwise, you're hearing stuff like this in the background while a person's talking. You don't want to hear that crap. You don't want to hear the dog barking in the yard outside. It takes away from, obviously, the story. You need to have that professional quality. So you have to have all of that. It's so that post-production stuff, usually the narrator will do it. Usually the narrators aren't very good at doing it. So some are great at doing it, but most narrators that I've dealt with look at it as and not for my own books, but helping other authors, look at it as, I do the narration and then I'll just put it through this blanket thing that's supposed to remove noise and mouth clicks and all that crap from it. And they'll do that, but here's the problem. Now when the word "the" comes up, if the person is saying I was walking to the bank, right, it would be like, I was walking to a bank, because it'll cut it off because they didn't meticulously go through and make sure. So that's what a production person or a very good narrator will do, is to make sure that happens. So you're not listening to an audiobook and then all of a sudden having words drop out, or just weird shit happening, or you can hear a cut, or you need to have that somewhat level of professionalism to do it. To put this into further perspective, I did it myself with Warped Conduit on Platoon F. It took me 30 hours to narrate. And this was the first book I'd ever done, so I'll give myself a little bit of a break. But it took me 30 hours to narrate that book because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I wasn't using what's called punch and roll, which is so much smarter, which thankfully I learned how to do, and saves tons of time. But instead what happens is you screw up. And so you're like, crap. So I'm reading along, I was supposed to go to the boot. It's supposed to be the bank. Okay. Take 2. I was supposed to go to the bank. Now, as you're listening through this, you then have to cut out that one piece, get rid of it, and then move the audio file over to this side, and then make sure there's a smooth transition. and then you continue on. Well, if you have like take 1, take 2, take 10 all the way through on the sync, you're cutting a lot of stuff per chapter. So it took me around 100 hours to post produce that book, and it was fucking exhausting. I mean, it was terrible to do that. So I vowed at that point, okay, this is not something I want to do. I don't mind narrating, but I don't want to do that part. So that's terrible. And that's when I was, already working with Matt, who, Matt and Just are the ones who do the narration for Ononikin and stuff. And Matt says, yeah, I do the post-production. That's no problem for me, which is amazing because he's a blind guy. I mean, he's blind, like totally. Right. And so, and yet this guy is amazing. When I hear him doing the stuff on his computer and the thing is talking to him, and yet how he does this is just baffling to me. But he taught me what's called punch and roll. What's nice about that is I say, hey, I was supposed to go to the book. All I do is I click right before I was supposed to go to the bank. And what it does is I then hit record. And then what it does is it plays me like the last 5 seconds of what was said before, and then just starts go ahead and recording from that point. So then it's just like da 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 da. I was supposed to go to the bank. And so now it's kind of like pre-cutting out that stuff. Oh my God, saves a huge amount of time. And the reason why it's so important, you could say, well, why didn't you just do that before? Because you won't hear that 5 seconds beforehand. And if you don't hear that, you lose your cadence. And so it's a real pain in the ass to do that. So instead, you want to hear that cadence, and you want to hear how your voice is. So that way you don't have something along the lines of at 5 o'clock, things were going to close. I was supposed to go to the bank. That's what you want it to sound like. But instead, because you don't have that punch and roll, it might come out as at 5 o'clock, we're about to close. I was supposed to go to the bank. It was like, what? It kind of has that screwy thing. Anyway, you have to go through all that shit. Then you give it to your post-production person, and that person is going to charge you a per finished hour as well. Obviously, it's a pain in the ass to do this job. So that's going to take time for them to do. So now you've paid your narrator, or you've royalty split on your narrator, and you either have to find, you can't find either a narrator has a royalty split partner that they use for production. They do it themselves and don't do a great job. They do it themselves and do a great job. Or you have to pay out of your pocket to have a post production done, even though you still have to maintain that royalty split that you just did. So for a book that's say 5 hours long, that post-production is probably going to run between $50 and $125 per finished hour. And so, I mean, damn, there's another 500 to, $500, let's say, that you're putting out of your pocket for that thing. So now we get to, you do it yourself. That's another option. You do it yourself and then have a producer. So those are the main options that you have. But either way, either you're splitting that money with somebody and you hope that they're good at it, and also recognize you have to find the person who is going to have the right voice for what it is you're trying to accomplish with your book and everything else, and hope that they're professional enough to be able to do all the stuff you need them to do and everything. So if you do the royalty split, and they'll do the royalty split, that's the other thing, of course. If you do the royalty split, we'll go back. Your book bundle sells for $29.99. Very rarely is anybody actually going to buy it at that. They have a member discount, or a membership with Audible. So boom, it immediately drops in half right there. So now if a person buys it, they're buying it at, roughly $15, and you get 40% of that, which is like what, $6 or something like that. So you get that divided by 2. So now half of it goes to the narrator, half of it goes to you. So right there alone, even if you don't have a partner narrator, but you paid for it out of your own pocket to have the narration done, you're getting like $6 instead of the $9.99. You get, when you got $8 on the ebooks, you're getting $6 roughly from Audible on that book. And so $6 for all of the work that has to go into that for the audio thing. And then to make matters even worse, Audible now, as the article points out, they have all this exchange your book, and so on. But here's the thing, and nobody should feel bad if you have done that in the past where you've exchanged your book. How would you know? You don't know that the author's not getting paid. That's the thing. They're not telling you. They're not saying exchange your book. There's no big deal. I mean, hey, the author's not going to get paid, but we still are as Audible, so we're okay with it, right? You as the listener aren't hearing that. You're basically seeing. So in other words, you're innocent in this. Yeah, if you get to an end of a book and you're just like, oh, that book was fun, but I don't want to pay for it, so I'm going to be a dick and I'm just going to say return the book. Okay, yeah, you're a dick. That's all there is to it, right? But if the concept is, hey, here's a button that says exchange this book, no harm, no foul, and you'll get another book and it'll be great, and we'll be like super duper. How do you know? Because it doesn't tell you, the listener, oh, by the way, the author's going to get fucked when you do this. It doesn't say that. But what actually happens, that $6 that shows up in the account, that $6, 3 months from now is taken back out. Right now, they don't go into your account and take it out. What they do is they basically say, okay, well, this month you were going to get paid, $500, but now you're going to get paid, $494. And the other 15 books that were returned, and you're going to get paid la 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 la, right? But they Audible don't even tell us, the author, that that's happening. They don't tell us. They don't say, here's how many exchanges happened, here's how many returns happened. Why? Because they don't want us to know. Because if we know, which we now do, then we go, hey, foul. This is almost fucking thievery. What the hell? You're basically stealing money from us. I mean, it's pretty much what they're doing. So of course, that's when people start getting pissy. So just to put into perspective, 500 units roughly last year, pretty much every month, 500 to, it was like a good numbers of 5 to 750 or whatever every month was selling. Now, less than 300 a month, like 200 to 250. And I know it's because of this exchange stuff and everything else, because it just all of a sudden one day went boop, dropped just like that. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Did my ads change? Did the ads effectiveness change? What's happening here? All this kind of stuff. And then I started, listening to other authors, buddies of mine, and I'm going, how are your Audible sales? Oh, I don't know. They freaking dropped in half almost. Yeah, they dropped in half because Audible started fucking all of us. So that's what's going on with that. And that's why when you say, when's this new audiobook coming out? Sorry, not anytime soon, because it's honestly costs us a lot more money to make it happen, and we're just going to get fucked. So until Audible is brought to task, which there are a lot of author groups that are apparently pulling together, including Nink, which is I don't think that they're actively actioning it right now, but their membership is saying, hey, we want you to action this. There are a lot of those things going on right now, and once Audible is basically brought to the whipping chair and taken care of, and things get into place, and they sent out an email saying, oh, we're looking into this. Yeah, because in other words, it's the old joke of the boyfriend who gets caught cheating and says, oh, I'm so sorry, it's like, you're not sorry, you're sorry you got caught. That's really what you're sorry about, because if you were sorry, you wouldn't have fucking done it in the first place, or you would have stopped immediately, but you didn't. You kept doing it. So you're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. So now they in this email that they sent, oh, we had problems with this, and then this one little paragraph. Oh, we're looking at that too. It's fine print, that kind of shit. So yeah, once they get there you go. Now, that said, I'm not stopping production. I'm just not producing. I'm just not pushing anything. The last thing that I did push, and I had done this before that article came out, was the Sinister book 3, I think. And that should be hitting Audible soon, which I'm sure I'll get screwed on, but that's going to be hitting soon. And the production is still going on in the background, but I'm not pushing anything to Audible until this gets resolved, because no. And then the question could be, well, what about going somewhere else? Okay. So here's the thing. They own the market. They pretty much do. 99% of people who listen to audiobooks are on Audible. You can say, well, I know there are other places. Yes, there are other places. And if you put your book up there, you could argue you'll probably make the same amount of money. But the thing is most of them, they still produce it to Audible. They still push it to Audible. Why? Because they know it's going to, make the most money. Well, here's the deal. You'll hear some of these places say, you get a higher percentage if you go through us, but you still push it to Audible? Yeah, which means you're getting 40%, which means I'm getting a lower percentage. I'm getting a higher percentage from you is kind of a misnomer, because you're still getting $6, and then you're saying, and I'm going to pay you 80% of $6. Yeah, but if I just go to them, I get $6. So, why would I go? Why am I going to lose money on that? And they say, well, because it's also through our other avenues. And this goes back to the, publishing wide versus publishing on Kindle Unlimited concept. If you publish on Kindle Unlimited, I make at least, let's say, I would say at least 50% of the income is due to Kindle Unlimited. So if I take my books off Kindle Unlimited and publish them, what's called publishing wide, putting them on Barnes & Noble, Apple, Kobo, Google Play, etc. If I do that, I will lose of that Kindle Unlimited side, which is, again, about half my income. I will make probably about 10% of that. So it's just not worth it. And it's a lot of friggin' work, right? So if you go to some other place like Findaway Voices, for example, it's not a lot of work. I put it there and they go ahead and distribute it. Same thing with like Draft to Digital for ebooks and such. They'll distribute it. They'll take care of all of that stuff for you, but you make like 10% of what you would make normally. And you could say, yeah, but you're making 50% of that now because of what's going on with Audible. Right. Which is why I'm not pushing books out there anymore. And I'm waiting for this to come around. And I'm hoping for class action lawsuits, because then they go back and they have to dig into it. And then we all get lots of, here's money because we were bad. That would be awesome. I doubt that's going to happen because it's Amazon. But anyway, still, so yeah, could you go to another place? And then Benna had asked a question on the group. Couldn't you just publish these yourself and so on? You can. The problems that you run into there are, you could say pirating could happen anyway, but you run into things like, okay, well, now you have to take credit cards. Now you have to, set up a shop. Then you have to have a delivery mechanism for the thing. And most people are used to having an app that allows them to, listen to the stuff and all that kind of junk. But this would just be, here's an MP3 or something like that. I'm sure there are tools out there to do it. But by the time you've invested the effort and everything into it, the question becomes, how much time could you have spent writing the next book or working on the next thing and so on and so forth? Somebody is bound to eventually create another service. And I've heard authors say this, like, somebody just needs to create a service that takes care of this whole thing. And it's like, yeah, but so many people have tried. And, when they go to do that, it's a pain, to get that done. And, somebody even said to me, well, you did reader links. Why don't you just do this? Reader links took 5 years to code. It's not something that is just, I'll do this weekend. I wish, but it just isn't that easy. So, yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass. And basically most authors right now that I've spoken with are either of the school of, fuck it, I'm just going to put the books up anyway. And, eventually, hopefully I get money back from some type of a lawsuit that happens or whatever. I'll put my name on a sheet. I don't care. Or they say, no, I'm not going to publish any books because Audible just keeps on screwing us. And that's the route that I'm personally going until, this gets resolved. Once it gets resolved, happy to do it. That's the other thing. The Audible codes, the promo codes that that I was handing out earlier this year, as another example of this. The Audible codes that I was handing out earlier this year, I had this, I gave a lot of them away. The reason why it was beneficial to me to do that is because Audible still paid me for every Audible code that was given out. So you got a free book, which introduced you to the rest of my Audible books, right? Was the goal, but I got paid for it. So I got $6, right? If it was a regular book, I probably got like 3, but I got like $6, right? By giving out those Audible codes. And then they said this, we're recognizing that people are using these, so we don't want to have to pay for them because, we're only a multi-trillion-dollar company. So, we got to watch our bottom line, fuckers. Anyway, so what they said was, hey, any book published after March 25th, we'll still give you promo codes for, but you're not going to get paid for them. And so authors are like, well, then why the fuck am I giving my books away? I'm not going to do that, because what happened was when you gave the promo code before, you got up to, I don't know, it's like 100 of them. So that's $600 that cuts into how much it cost you to produce that book. right? Now, for me specifically, that's great because if I narrate the book, like if I narrate a Southeast Asia book, then my production guy, he charges me about $600 to do the post production on that book. Well, that's a break even point, which means at that it's totally worth it. But once they remove that, then what they're saying is, yeah, we don't really want to pay you anything if we can avoid it. So that's what we're gonna do. But we still want you to use the promo codes. Well, fucking of course you do, because it makes you money, but it screws the author. So again, these guys are predatory pricks that are doing this kind of stuff to authors. And so anyway, go a little bit light on authors that you're waiting for audiobooks on, because we're definitely getting fucked by this company. Just be aware of that. So there you go. Does that make you mad?
Yeah, and it's even worse because you have to put the individual books out, which people aren't going to buy, and then you got to get up to 5 of them and make a box set. So then you're losing money at that point.
Yeah. So let's ask. I'm going to go through and pop up a few of these questions, and let's call it a day. So Audrey had asked, if I bought the book, if I read from KU, will you get the funds? I don't think so. I think that I don't know though. It's a really good question. I don't think there's anything that says yes or no on that, and it's a really hard thing to track, because who knows if it's counting you reading the book or somebody who is reading it the same day you are. I guess one way you could find that out is I could give you a book that I know nobody's reading and basically say, hey, buy this and then read it. And then we can do that test if you're up for it. I appreciate the donation. Let's see. Let's go to the next thing. Let's see. Is that cost counting your time, John? No, of course not. I know I should, but I usually don't do that. And you're talking about the narration and stuff like that. So not really. Let's see, post-production, 4-1. Yeah, that's true. I'm looking for questions here. Do you have any problems with privacy? I want to talk about this one really quickly, Michelle. So privacy is a constant issue. I have been in the games industry for 30 years almost. And so I'm very familiar with privacy. And here's really what it comes down to. I don't care. That's what it comes down to. And, people can say, well, you should care because of copyright issues and all that kind of stuff. Well, get your books copywritten then. Pay to have them, the actual copywriting done. The reason why I say I don't care is because the people who pirate books, yeah, they're assholes, but they're not going to buy the book anyway. And at least they're reading it. So, and maybe some of those people who read it go, I like this well enough that I'm going to try it out. To be fair, I'm not going to say all pirate, people who read a pirate book are assholes. That's an unfair statement. Because I think that, many people have said, I want to try a piece of software, just as an example, to make sure that I'm going to use it before, or that it's going to fit my need before I buy it. So now there's a lot of free trials, but back in the day, there wasn't. There was just a case of, if you want to use, such and such a thing, like Fruity Loops was one of them, is a audio thing. If you want to use this, it's $99 right out the gate. And you don't know if it's any good. And so you're spending $99 and then there's like no refunds. And you're like, well, I'm not just going to give you $99. So there was a time, I'll be honest, where I would see, is there a version of this where I can get it for free so I can test it? But every single time, if I had something and I was like, this is, not what I need, I deleted it. And if it was what I needed, then I would go spend the $99 and get the actual version. But it was only because they didn't have free trials at that point. So it could be a case of a person goes, I'm going to check out this book, but I want to pay for it because, I don't want to spend $2.99 or $4.99 on something. Instead, I'm going to buy 6 coffees for, $50 each, but whatever. Sorry. And so they'll read that book in a pirated book or whatever, but then they might go like this, you know what? I want to support this writing, whoever it is, me, whoever. I want to support this writing. If the person doesn't do that and they just say, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to pirate all the books. Yeah, that person's an asshole. And what I love is the argument back on that is like, well, this should all be free. Okay, remember that when you go and get your job to tell them that you don't want to get paid. You just want to get work for free. That's, and they'll be like, well, that's not true. Yeah, because it's you. As soon as it's you, oh, then money is important. But if it's somebody else who has done the work, fuck them. That's the attitude that I can't stand. And that's the piracy thing. However, that said, it's a non-ending fight. You can't win the fight. So I could go out there and I could say, oh, okay, I got to get all my books down from here, take all the books down from there. This is pirating, that's pirating. They'll be up in a day or two. I mean, it's you can't win the fight. And so if you're spending all of your time trying to deal with that, there's just no point. You just can't win. So yeah, people pirate my stuff, sure, but I'm not going to spend, hours a day doing it. And I know a lot of authors will, and there's even been services that come up and so on and so forth. Good for them. If that's what they want to do, that's cool. But there are services that have come up that say, put in this and then we'll go send all this kind of stuff out there. And I think most of those places have even closed at this point. It's a never ending fight. You can't win it. And so I don't want to waste my time on it. So I just don't. That's me. Any comments on that?
No, yeah, they weren't going to buy it anyway. And if they read we give first books away a lot or discount them. So, if someone does that and goes on to buy the rest of the series, cool. If they don't, then yeah, they weren't going to be a customer anyway. So maybe they'll tell a friend.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I sound like I just got off of a huge rant and now I'm like, but anyway, look, 99% of being an author is awesome. It's great, but just keep in mind, this is a business. This is how we pay to eat. This is how we pay to, just like any job that anybody goes to. Like when I was a software engineer, I went to that job. When I was a producer, I went to that job and everything else. And I worked and I got paid for my job. This is my job. And so, if your boss at work, you're working and everything else, and your boss says, we decided to pay you half of what we were going to normally pay you. Or we decided that, the 40 hours that you worked this week, we're only going to pay you for 20 of it. What are you going to do? You're not just going to sit there. You're going to say something about it. You're going to be like, hey, fuck, no, that ain't right. Everything else. I busted my butt for 40 hours. Why are you paying me for 20? Right. So that's the kind of message I think that, people don't, a lot of times they might see a book and they don't realize that there's a lot that goes behind that book. And there's a lot of effort and time, late nights, weekends, the whole thing that goes into that book. Is it fun? Of course it's fun, but it's still your job. You still have to somehow turn that into income so that you can continue being an author. Do you want more books? Do you want more audiobooks and all that kind of stuff? And now when these companies do it to you, fuck, it's like KDP changes their stuff all the time. That's Amazon, by the way. Amazon changes their stuff all the time. They're always trying to find, and then you have Facebook going, oh, let's put this new design together, which now ads are even harder to get people to see. And then you're like, well, I hate ads anyway. Okay, but if it wasn't for ads, you never would have found my books in the first place. You know what I mean? Or Joe's books or Sally's books, whatever. You never would have found them in the first place because that's where you saw them, was probably a Facebook ad or an Amazon ad or a BookBub ad or something like that, right? That's usually where that happens. But now they've changed all that around. And just so you guys know, Facebook ad system has been so fucked up lately. My account was deleted. My ads account was deleted last week, just out of the blue. Just fucking deleted it. No reason. It said, oh, I wasn't, fitting the terms of service and stuff. And I'm like, what? I've been running the same fucking ads for years. What are you talking about? Right. And then, so I was just like, whatever, I'll deal with it tomorrow. And then 5 o'clock the next morning, they turned it back on. No explanation, no additional emails saying, hey, we screwed up. And here you go. Nope, none of that. They just turned them back on, which is great. I'm glad they did. But at the same time, what the hell? And then if you look at author groups, they're all saying the same thing. They're saying, for whatever reason, my ads account got deleted, or I'll have 10 ads that all of a sudden just get deleted for no apparent reason. And it's just like, we find this ad is no longer fitting our term of service, or this ad doesn't fit our term of service. So what do? You go back in and you click on the ad and you say, I object to this or whatever, or I request a review of this, right? Because then you type in a thing. This ad's been running for 3 years. What's going on, right? And they come back, oh, sorry, there was a glitch in our system, and they just turn them back on. Or even more fun, they turn off your ads and then they turn on ads that you turned off 2 months ago because those ads weren't functional. They weren't doing anything. And you're going, why are you turning my ads on? I turned this off because it wasn't working. Oh, sorry about, there's a glitch in our system. Yeah, well, your glitch just cost me $35. Are you paying for that? No. You know what I mean? Put this into any context of any normal situation in life and tell me you'd put up with that shit. You wouldn't, right? But anyway, so yeah, being an author, I love writing. This is what I tell people. I love writing. Being an author sucks. And unfortunately, writing is only about 25% of the job. But hey, if I work in the corporate world, 75% of that job sucks. So I'd rather this. I'm happy. I'm good. So this should have been called not Anthologies, but John Bitches for an hour.
Whatever fills the time.
Whatever fills the time. Well, are you guys at least enjoying the show? I mean, we're trying to give you, information about the realities of what we deal with and all that kind of stuff. And if it sounds just like us doing event bitch session, sorry, but we're trying to at least be transparent and share the information with you so you understand, especially if any of you are like want to be authors or thinking about it, or you're just interested in the business. That was kind of our agreement. So hopefully you're not just seeing this as me groaning and moaning, but as an educational thing as well. Cool. Thanks, Chris. Yeah. Anyway, well, look, I know it's 12:30 in the morning for you.
Yep.
And you still have to like eat, exercise, and whack off. So that's going to take you until at least 12:45.
Well, I count two. Well, at least two of them I could do at the same time. It is exercise. Just get your heart rate up. If you jog in place at the same time.
Eating, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can, put donuts on there, it's
well, actually,
multitasking.
it's funny. There's a guy. I've said his name before. Nino Griezmanelli. It's not his real name. It's Mark Tratch or something. Anyway, he had a show called The Grease Man Show, and it was in DC. He's a disc jockey back in the 80s. And he did some questionable stuff, definitely. But he had skits and he had all these things that he would do that were really funny. And one of these things that he did was called the 6-minute workout. And it was all these different ways of whacking off, basically. And so you'd hear like, and he goes, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, switch. And a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, feel that bad boy twitch. He would sit there and do this, and it's a song playing in the background. Ding, 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 ding. Right? He's singing this whole thing. And then he would come up with these things, or people would call in with suggestions and all this kind of stuff. So he would say, the military man, salute with your right hand, whack with your left, salute with all this kind of stuff. Around the world, reach around your leg and up and through and a whack, 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 whack. He'd do all these things, and then it'd be like, then he'd have this like little chorus. It'd be like, wailing away today, oh, there'll be hell to pay if you use some oil of Olay. It'll help keep the friction away. If you wail with a lot of glee, soon you'll have a speckling spree. He would do all those things. So I called him and I said, I got two of them. He's in his voice. He's like, all right, buddy, what do you got for me? Right. And I was like, all right. So the first one is the cameraman, point and shoot. And he was just like, I like it. He said, all right, what else you got? I say, the catapult. I said, you push it down, you let it go. He says, I love it. You can put a peanut on the tip of it, try to catch it in your teeth. The dude was fucking hilarious, man. A lot of that humor, comes from that kind of guy. But again, he did a few things that were not good, but most of them go way too far. But anyway, it was freaking hilarious. I love that show. But if you go back and look for the Grease Man on like YouTube and stuff like that. Later years, it's kind of gotten a little pathetic. But if you can find some of the things that he does, God, it's really funny shit. Really funny shit.
It's funny that you come up with all those things whenever we have like the Valka Sutra, and I showed you that, but my wife didn't know what the Valka Sutra thing was, so I got her a bag for shopping with it on there. And I waited for her to get back and said, "So you've read this, right? What? Your bag? Yeah, it's fine. What?" He said, "No, go through and look at all these." She's like, "What is the volcano?" I'm like, "Oh, that's whenever you do it when you have diarrhea and all that." She's like, and just like she has no idea. Like, this is slang. This is what is like. Yeah, this is just shit I made up. But if you get anyone to read that, it doesn't really look good. She's like, I don't want to use your bag anymore. And like, that's why I bought it.
Which one?
Yeah.
After that, I would argue either.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Goes back to her hobbies today. But I don't know if she cups the balls or not.
You don't know?
Well, I don't know in the specific instance I was talking about earlier that I'm not allowed to talk about.
I bet you did anyway.
Yeah, I did everything except for, yeah. So let that be a mystery. She'll never listen to it, but
Never know. Yeah, exactly. It's like, how come Noah's not here this week? Oh, his wife listened to it. Oh. He won't be with us anymore.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, this has been a long show. It's been cathartic. Thanks everybody for letting me bitch. I appreciate it. I feel re-energized. But yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, look forward to make sure to go get that anthology. Again, it does support charity, and it also helps us support the Twats doing what is it? Twats helping Twats, I think. Yep. So it'll help us to donate toward that as well. So it's kind of a double whammy, which is good. Also, try not to exchange your books on Audible. If you do buy Audible books, and tell all your friends, hey, are you an Audible person? Yeah, don't exchange your books because it fucks the author. Let them know that. Also, yeah, definitely looking into doing that first books thing. Also looking into doing the crate, which is also going to have some other cool stuff in it, because we've been talking about, not just putting the first books in there, but doing things like other junk, that we're going to put in there. Like one of the things that we talked about as an example is witch nail polish, which is this cool like black glittery nail polish stuff, and just kind of little things that relate to the PPD world but aren't specific to any character or anything else, just kind of like fit, so things like that. And yeah, just keep your eyes open. More stuff is on the way, and there you have it. And plus we got 3 new books that are going to be coming soon, so hopefully, well, 2 new books and a 3rd rewrite, and 1 rewrite, I should say. That's it.
Yeah. Get us next week whenever we talk to a different person.
Yeah, we are talking to Rami next week, so be here for that. I will put up the message on that shortly. And other than that, I hope everybody has a great weekend, rest of your weekend, and be safe out there. Later.